Hello again, you multifaceted Godot people. In this video, we're going to look at the joys of the animation tree. Now, Animation Player in Godot is really quite powerful. We can animate any property. We can animate position, we can animate color, we can animate visibility, we can even bring in things like cue-free as part of an animation. But what if we want to blend from one animation to another? What we want to do is animate the PC when it moves and have the PC move from one animation to another smoothly. We don't want run, 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 suddenly stop. We want run, run, slow down, stop, speed up, run. To do that, we need to set up an animation tree. So I'm going to jump into Godot. I'm going to notice that this little person is sinking into the floor and raise them up a bit. Come off snap and just bring your feet up to the floor. Much better. Okay, let's open the player scene. And within the player scene, we want to go to the armature. Animation tree has to point to an animation player. So I'm going to go to the root of the armature. I'm going to add with Control A, animation tree. I'm not going to use animation tree player because that's deprecated. That's an older version. Animation tree is what we want. And immediately we can see a couple of issues. The first is it wants a tree root, and the second is it wants an animation player. Let's start with the animation player. We need to assign it to this one. It now knows what animations it has access to. Now, the tree root. What kind of animation tree do we want? And there's a few things we could do. We could just have a simple, you can play this animation. We can have a blend space, which is a little bit complicated for what we're doing, but is all kinds of cool. We can have a blend tree, and we can even have a state machine. We can program in a state machine as a visual node and work it here. And that's not what we're doing. We're doing a blend tree. This is a visual representation of our animations. Before we go any further, let's make it active. And you'll notice that hasn't done anything. That's because here's our output and nothing's happening. Let's add in an animation. I'm going to right click on the space, click animation, give it a name, and then I'm going to press this little film reel to pick the available animations, all of which are the ones inside the animation player. Let's pick idle, and I'm going to drag the node to connect it, and we have an idle animation. Okay, so far, that's just an idle animation. Let's bring in another animation, right-clicking, and I'm going to call this Run, and I'm going to click the film icon and pick Run. Now, I can't drag this one in here because there's already something in there. So instead, I'm going to drag from output and just break that connection. Let's right-click here and add a Blend to. And I'll explain what that does in a second, but let's just drag in and blend, like so, and connect that to the output, and then drag this slider. You see what we're doing here? Okay, let's take a moment to talk about what's happening here. I can right-click and add a few different ones. The ones we care about right now are these blend nodes. You can learn about the others by right-clicking and going to Open Documentation. Right? There's all kinds of fun things you can do here. But for the purpose of our game, let's focus on what needs to happen. So, let's talk about animation tree blend nodes. We have a blend 2. Blend 2 takes animation 0 and animation 1. From that, we can slide between them. Blend 3 is a little different. Blend 3 has -1, 0, and +1, and we can slide somewhere between those values. What we can't do is have a blend between -1 and +1 that doesn't go through 0. Or we could have a blend 4. This is essentially two blend 2s added together. Now, what I care about right now is a blend 2. So we have a blend 2 right here, which will work fine. And I'm just going to give myself some space by pressing here and move around a bit. Now, there's some more animations I want to do. We also want to be able to punch and to pick up. So I'm going to bring those animations in over here. So let's bring in an animation called punch. And I'm going to click here and select punch. Move my output over. And another one down here, which is going to be called pick up. And that's going to be working. Now, we are never going to be able to punch or fire and pick up at the same time. I'm using the punch animation as a firing animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this connection and I'm going to make a blend 3. Remember, I will never be able to pick up and fire at the same time. So I'm going to bring this as my negative blend, this is my positive blend, and this is my in. Then when I connect here, and I look at the screen again, we're currently in idle. I can move this anywhere in there, and that's what's going to be going into the in node. Then I can move like that. And you see how there is a halfway point between these, right? So we can slowly move between them. That's what we care about. All of these parameters can be accessed in code. And to do that, we need to know these parameters. As we make more blend nodes, they'll come in here and we can see the properties. And I can mouse over them and see parameter, blend 3, blend amount. Well, blend 2 and blend 3 are terrible names. So I'm going to rename them. Move. And action. State. Yeah, I guess this is kind of a mini state. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. We now have a very simple animation tree that's going to work well for our game. All of our possible animation states are in there, and we can speed up, slow down, run along, and then move down to pick things up, shoot, and so on. So all of that's going to work nicely for me. There's a lot more we can do here. For instance, we could speed up this firing animation with a time scale. And if I just zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing, I could bring that into here, speed it up by a factor of 2 and bring it out. But this is going to do for now. We can always tweak it later. So let's save that. I'm going to come out of here, and we need our character template. So I'm going to go from player to its parent scene over here. Oh, I've just realized I've left that in the wrong state. So let's head back in, get an animation tree, and just move you to 0 and to 0. Great. Idle is our idle animation. Let's leave the character in idle. Okay, we have our character here. I was wrong. We don't need our character. We're not adding this to NPCs. We're adding this to players. So here's our player script. We need to control these animations in script. So let's begin by jumping in here. And we're going to make a brand new function called animate. And animate is going to figure out when it needs to do things. So let's jump all the way down and make a function called animate. And give ourselves lots of room. Awesome. Okay, we're going to be running animate every physics frame, but there's information I want to hold between frames, right? We need to move from one animation to another. I need to know where we are, which means I want some instance variables. Specifically, I want variables and constants. I need a brand new variable. Hello, cat. Cat is coming to join us. And I'm going to call this movement state. And that's going to be set to 0. So what's this? This is how far along are we between idle and move. So I'm just going to make a quick note. Idle is 0, run is 1. Okay, we also want some constants. I'm going to make a constant in capitals called minimum blend speed. And I'm going to make this at 0.125. This is going to be what's our minimum movement speed before we start blending. So minimum movement threshold before we start blending animations. There. All right, 2 more things I need. I need the speed at which we move to the run animation and the speed at which we move to the idle animation. These are constants. And I'm going to say blend to run. I feel like we should speed up pretty slowly. We can tweak these, but from my experience, I think 0.075 is a good number. And we need a constant for blend to idle. And let's put that 0.1 just to see what it looks like. Okay, back down to animation. Okay, first thing I need to do, should we be idle or should we be moving? So to do this, for the moment, I'm going to use motion times speed dot length. Now, I have to multiply this by speed because our motion is between 0 and 1, right? That's just, are we moving in these directions? So multiply by speed is going to give us our actual speed. So if motion times speed dot length, so the length of that vector, how far have we traveled in any possible direction in this frame, is greater than min blend speed. If so, then movement state is going to add blend to run. Okay, so we're going to start at 0, and every frame we're going to add 0.075. Otherwise, the movement state is going to subtract blend to idle. Oops, not -1. Blend to idle. Now, clearly, we need to stay between 0 and 1, or we're going to get some really odd effects. So let's say movement state is equal to the clamped value of movement state between 0 and 1. Okay, so far so good. Now let's actually use this. So we need a new variable, which is going to be called animation, and that's going to be our animation tree. So let's go get our animation tree. And now we need to set the animation. To do this, we're going to call the animation tree, like so, and then we're going to use the parameter, which is going to come in these square brackets as if it was an array. So let's bring that up, and let's open the armature so we can see what we're doing. And remind ourselves that we want the move one, and we're going to use this blend amount. So we want parameters, move, blend amount. Now, unfortunately, I can't paste that, but it's going to look back into my script view. Oh, let's just, there we go. It's going to look like this. I need to use it as a string, parameters, move, blend amount. And that is going to equal the movement state. Let's just double check I've got that right. So come out of here. We know we don't need the animation tree. In fact, we don't need any of this window. So let's just bring that down so it's normal size and close it. There we go. Mouse over it and see that we have this right. Parameters, move with a capital M, blend amount. That's looking good. All right, now if we've done this correctly, we can jump into the game. And look at that. Now I have noticed we're facing the wrong direction. Let's quickly fix that before we go any further. So face forward, I've got pi divided by 2. I think I should mean pi multiplied by 2, don't I? Let's take a quick look. Yes. You see that very subtle thing? We can make sure we can notice that by, let's say, putting this at 0.01 and 0. In fact, let's put 0.001. This is way too low for what we need, but you see how he's very slowly picking up speed? Clearly, way too slow for what we need. So let's bring those back to where they were. Let's put you at 0.01 to see what that looks like. So I'm going to build up some speed. Iscat's going to meow at us. You see that? So when he stops, he slowly blends down. Now, that's too slow, but 0.1 feels pretty good. Or if you prefer 0.05. You can change these between scenes, but they're constants, which means we're not changing them at runtime. And that is our animation tree. Now, when we add in more effects and we change how the movement and camera works, we're going to have to tweak exactly how this function works. But this is these are the basics. This is not the basics. This is the basic idea. These are the basics. And I think that's a really good place to stop. So, excellent work, and I'll see you in the next video.